Alright guys, we are spawning on Daybreak, of course, in the top right corner as the red Protoss representing the Team Prime in today's Fight Club. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Creator. And his opponent as the blue Terran spawning in the bottom left position. One of the most known players, of course, in the Korean scene, participating in an awful lot of foreign tournaments with a large degree of success. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be Polt.
Yeah, so Polt versus Creator here. Now, a little bit of background on these guys as far as their Team Arena Challenge goes and whatnot. Creator.Prime is the challenger this week. If you guys are just joining us for the first time, and I wouldn't blame you because the name of these two players is pretty staggering, and I think this promises to be one of our best fight clubs yet. Creator is our challenger. He is trying to take on TSL.Polt, who has won the last few weeks of IPL Fight Club. He defeated MC to make his way into it, collected a little bit of a bounty then, also defeated Show, and now finds himself playing against Creator. So he has a $200 bounty on his head. So Creator.Prime is playing not just for the $500 prize this week, but also to usurp that crown and take the $200 bounty off of his head. So we'll go ahead and see what these players offer. Polt, of course, you kind of mentioned his visibility lately. Plays in a lot more foreign tournaments than Creator does. Creator certainly has been concentrating first and foremost on GSL, GSTL to a degree as well. Yep. But Polt has really made a name for himself competing and winning a good portion of foreign tournaments lately.
He has indeed, and the thing I would say about these players is, especially Creator, if you had this show match going on like a couple of months ago, for example, you would have to really give the odds heavily in favor of Polt because we hadn't yet seen what Creator was made of, and we saw some of that in the more recent GSL, and taking out Maru as well, who is possibly touted as one of the best TVTers on the planet. So to be able to kill Maru, whose TVP is also quite good, and then come up against Polt. Now, actually, I think Creator stands a really good chance here. We're just going to have to wait and see what goes on, as we do now see the command center successfully going up despite a little bit of harassment from Creator.
Yeah, that's right. So Polt going to go command center first. Barracks coming up after that. Nothing really out of the ordinary on Creator side of things. Looks like he's decided he built the gas geyser. You'll see a lot of players that'll do this recently. They don't know what their Terran opponent is going to go for, and it's better to be safe than sorry. So they'll put up gas on the normal time so they can start mining, which you can see that Creator started to do, but as soon as he catches a glimpse of a command center first, immediately pulls off of that, goes into a Nexus. So pretty common stuff we've been seeing. Now, another thing is that some Protoss players have been punishing the very greedy style out of Terrans lately. They've been going for quicker two-base Colossus builds in a lot of circumstances. We saw Squirtle excel at that, not just in the GSL, but also en route to his second place, his runner-up finish at IPL 4. I wonder if Creator's going to take a page from that book, or if he's going to continue to play that very passive style that he's kind of built his reputation on.
It's going to be very interesting to see exactly what he chooses to do with that. Like you said, Kevin, we've got he's now mining gas. The second base will be up soon. And everything looking pretty normal so far for both players. Like we mentioned, a little bit of a greedy build coming out here from Polt, but it depends on whether Creator is going to be able to get a crisp timing off, because at the end of the day, two-base Colossus timings can be really powerful, but you wait even a little bit too long and you just give one or two more production cycles to a Terran and they're just completely well-equipped to hold it off.
Very much so, especially if Polt is able to go ahead and defend multiple bunkers up at the front, depending on what his opponent does. So, what kind of a scout has Polt gotten on his opponent? Looks like he's seen the second gas coming up, but it's a pretty predictable time. Could very well be a Robo following this up, or just a couple of gateways and a couple additional sentries in there as well. His opponent, though, Polt, is deciding, wow, to bypass gas for quite a long period of time. It's about this stage that we'd see a player like Thorzane, if he was going after his barracks first build, or I'm sorry, his command center first build, to double gas, give him some flexibility through the mid-game, but Polt wants to get a huge number of Marines up very early on to make sure he's safe against whatever hits him very early on, as we can see, going up to a total of 4 barracks before he ever touches his gas.
That's right. We see a lot of Terrans, for example, one Rax expand or even command center first, where you get that initial Rax, but then you grab Rax 2 and 3 more or less at the same time. And it's an indication that you might think, oh, hang on, we could be having an early timing here. I just want to make sure I'm defended against that, when you delay your gas just a little bit more and get that 4th Rax down.
And Creator deciding to play a little bit technologically greedier as well. I mean, we've seen a lot of players do this recently. Oh, and Stalker Sandwich, not a sandwich you want to be part of, as Creator does pick off that SEV. But, you know, we've seen players kind of respond greed with greed recently, and that's kind of what Creator has done. A lot of times, if a Terran player is showing that they're going to go for 2 barracks opening or something like that, even if you do a 1-gate expand, you're going to go up to 2nd and 3rd gates very quickly to make sure you have the units to be able to deal with what your Terran is throwing at you. Creator says, I feel pretty safe. Here's a Robo, and here's 2 Observers right afterwards before I finish up my other gateway. So he has almost no units right now to defend, purely relying on his presence on the map to know what his opponent is throwing at him.
That's exactly right. I mean, the metagame for TVP at the moment is almost reminds me a little bit of how PvZ used to be like, when as the game progressed and you could see the metagame just moving further and further forward, both players just start getting a little bit greedier, which is why we now have the current metagame, and possibly moving beyond that soon, where you just see very, very fast 3-hatching Zergs. That never used to be the case. Zergs used to play quite aggressively against Protoss and then sort of rein that in, and it was sort of a competition to see who could out-greed the other, which is what led to the current metagame. And we're seeing a little bit of that kind of shift in TVP here as well.
Well, you know, Creator is actually playing at his Creator.Prime-iest right now. He does have double forges already finished, and he's moved into 1-1 sub 8 minutes. So if all goes according to plan for him, he'll be finishing up with 3-3 and a third base around the 15 or 16-minute mark, and will just have a crushing, overwhelming force to throw at his opponent. Polt, meanwhile, though, has been able to macro free. As we can see, no engineering base up, so no +1 on the way yet, prioritizing the regular bio upgrades that come out of Tech Labs on barracks, and establishing a third base. Now, he probably just wants to sit this here for a while so he can saturate 2 bases as quickly as is humanly possible, but still, he's pretty slow to tech, but making a huge number of bioforces, possibly to put on some early pressure.
That's right. Polt has the advantage in terms of numbers at the moment, and I think Creator needs to recognize that. Of course, he saw that army with the Observer and just needs to sit back for a little bit while he techs up. But if he allows 1-1 to finish, for example, gets a couple of decent Warpins in and possibly a couple of Immortals in with the army composition as well, he'll be able to do an awful lot of damage against this Bioforce. We see there's a decent amount of energy on those sentries in addition, and we're going to be grabbing a couple more gateways down. So there's Creator just wants to get into a position where he has his upgrades ready and he knows that the quality of his army is better than his opponent's before engaging, simply because Polt has that many units out on the field.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, if I was going to write a textbook on PvT play that involves Creator and Polt, it would actually go exactly according to this game. They are playing their styles to a hilt. So they have double engineering base hitting for Polt now. He's moving to a start forge quite late. He's going to make sure he relies on maneuverability and upgrades here for his bio forces. Creator, on the other hand, hey, look at that. He's got a third base coming up after he establishes gateways number 4 and 5. With the robotics spade down, is already producing Colossus number 1. Surprised he's getting Thermal Lance a little bit later, but it looks like he wants to make sure that he could start 2-2 before anything else.
And this could get very interesting as well, because there might be a Colossus timing somewhere down the line, although we did see Creator use a large chunk of those minerals on that third Nexus. But there's also going to be a little bit of a timing here for Polt when 1-1 finishes as well, because he'll now have a couple of medevacs out on the field by the time that hits. So it's going to be a question of who decides to be the aggressor here. Both sides might have a little bit of a timing against their opponent's third base. It's all going to come down to positioning and posturing out in the middle of the map, and I have to give a small advantage in terms of scouting here to Creator, just because he has those observers out on the map right now, and he can plot his moves based on where he knows Polt's army is.
Yeah, Creator's a guy who's liable, as the game wears on, to make 4, 5, 6 observers, especially when he's on that double robo stage later on, just because he wants absolute control of the map. So you're exactly right there. We do have 1-1 upgrades coming up now for Polt, but even though he's aggressively getting double engineering base at the same time and invested in a large army, you can see he's going to be significantly set back there. Now, the one real advantage he has is that this time that he's going to hit, it may be a case of knowing his opponent right now. If he hits exactly when 1-1 finishes up, it's still going to be a good 15 or 20 seconds before 2-2 finishes for Creator, thus giving Polt the same number of upgrades when this attack hits. So if he's able to pull this off, it could be quite good. That being said, though, even on upgrades, even on even upgrades, Creator's army is still going to be staggeringly powerful.
That's right, a couple of Colossi here, although crucially, Extended Thermal Lance is not yet complete, so the Bio army will be able to snipe off Colossi just that little bit easier than they otherwise normally would. In fact, Extended Thermal Lance is behind the 2-2, so Polt does have a little bit of a timing window here, and we can see both sides posturing their armies, trying to find the perfect angle of engagement. That scouting factory from Polt being incredibly useful in determining where Creator.Prime is positioning his army right now. A couple of scans also going down, possibly, I think, taking out an observer there as well from Polt, and he needs to move in right about now. He has got the 1-1 complete, but Creator, rather, I think, has just finished 2-2 and is about to start 3-3. So it looks like that slim timing window where the upgrades would be even, as another observer gets sniped out there from Polt. is going to go away now as Polt loads up a huge drop.
That's right. This is Polt being very Polt right now as he loads up a gigantic drop. There's already a lot of Zealots that are ready for this. Critically, though, Polt has lost the timing that you were mentioning before, and as we can see, 3-3 is on the way. An extended Thermal Lance did finish up. Zealots starting to make their way in now. The Marauders are in a pretty good spot at the back, and honestly, you know, Creator has to run away with these and let the rest of his army get into position. The Colossi are going to be the real powerhouse here, and it looks like they are finally starting to get some damage done. Polt at the same time, though, is attacking down to the third. He is able to take out the Nexus, and he's continuing to do damage up at the top. He needs to pick up and get out of there. Finally does so. Creator, very smart, trying to pick off a couple of those medevacs, not able to do so quite yet. Polt actually getting a little bit dangerously close as he's worried about this army down here at the bottom, where he is going to be able to pick off another Colossus as well. So looks like he has gained himself a pretty significant base advantage as he's moving to his fourth, as Creator's just trying to reestablish his third.
Yeah, Polt continuously moving out around the map, forcing Creator to make decisions about how to split his army up, and that's really how he's trying to get the advantage in this particular engagement. That drop towards the end there, as you said, maybe not the most efficient there for Polt. By that point, the damage was done. He took out the third base, so he now has an extra mining base, and he is ahead 157 to 138 supply. However, Creator.Prime is continuously getting more and more units. We can see, actually, he just switched up to Immortals. He cancelled a Colossus and started an Immortal there, and 3-3 is also on the way as well. So perhaps we'll see a little bit of counter-aggression from Creator, but he can't wait too long. Otherwise, the mining advantage Polt will have will simply translate into an overwhelming force.
That's very true, especially the number of Vikings that are coming out now would counter any number of Colossi that are sitting out there. But as you mentioned, the Immortal switch has already happened. I would expect to see Storm or something like that at some point here, especially once his third base gets going and he has a little bit more gas at his disposal. As we can see, Creator just trying to sit back for the time being and do whatever he can to play defensively. I do have to say, though, I'm now rooting against Polt this entire set. As we can see, one Automaton moving down. He did pick off another one that was sitting inside of the restricted zone. Ooh. So killing the neutral creeps makes me a little bit upset.
Sorry, Polt. A little bit controversial.
Yeah, that's BM.
Well, Polt's doing everything he needs to do to put off his opponent a little bit here. We can see he's actually building up a little bit of a bank now as well, and he's just done such a good job of picking off observers that Creator can no longer just sit there and hope that he's getting an advantage over his opponent. Now, on the upside, Polt has been making Vikings, and of course, Creator did that Immortal switch, but we'll have to wait and see if it's going to be enough. Another observer now coming, and look at that immediate scan from Polt. He is just so on the ball when it comes to that, and 3 more medevacs going to be dropping units into the main, but look at how many units are. Good blink in, focusing down the medevacs, and the Zealots are more or less on top of the units as they drop. Every single medevac will fall, and it looks like it's going to be down to this main engagement here as that drop fails from Polt. Creator going to be poking in, and Polt actually moving back momentarily, not stimming just yet, but that small force of Marauders and Marines down at the third, and once again, the Nexus get picked off. Polt doing a tremendous job here of being in about 5 places at once, and Creator just struggling to keep up.
Now, here's what he has to worry about, though. The big old counterattack. As we can see, if we take actually workers out of the equation, Creator does have a pretty significant advantage in terms of overall supply, and all of this is on the field, whereas Polt is being created at the moment. So, I'm sorry, yeah, that's what I meant to say. So now Creator's going to start rolling up, and, can't engage with half his army. If he voluntarily splits his army, it would actually be bad, but he's moving around the flank from the back. Planetary Fortress starting to do damage to the Zealots that are on the ground. The Colossi doing an admirable job of pinning back the Bioforces, but it looks like they finally will all fall. No, actually, the Vikings are taken out before the Colossi all go down. Trying to put pressure on the Planetary Fortress. He does get it. Creator's going to need to get himself at least another base, though, if he wants to continue to equalize the economic damage that he's taken.
Yeah, that was absolutely huge from Creator. At the end of the day, the Immortal switch was really clever, especially since there were more and more Vikings coming out for Polt, but then not even getting all the Colossi picked off by those Vikings, and Polt's supply just plummeted. He's currently about 10 supply down from a position where he was about 20 supply up. Nice tunneling there, though, from Polt. He's forcing the army to engage behind a choke that's more or less favorable for this buyer. However, it might not be enough to save all of these hapless SCVs, and I think Creator can just stutter step backwards and force Polt's army into a more vulnerable place, and that looks like exactly what he's going to be doing here. As soon as he moves back, Polt's army is just in not as good a concave, and with a couple of Zealots added to the mix as well, it looks like Creator's going to be able to put on a really good amount of pressure. He has to take out some of these medevacs, though, because these Marauders are just going to continuously get healed, and are they focusing down the Immortals? There we go, a blink back from the Stalkers, effectively forfeits the Immortals, and I'm not sure Creator handled that engagement quite as well as he could have.
Well, it looks like he tried to run with a few Zealots into the natural as well. How many workers have been killed in this game? Looks like Creator has killed 35. His opponent's down to just 49 SCVs. That's not the worst thing in the world, though, for Polt. As we can see, he has a number of other command centers that are already up and ready to go. He'll be on a total of 6 orbital commands when all is said and done. That means effectively he'll be able to call down 6 mules at once, but because the times overlap a little bit, he'll have an average of about 9 on the field at any given point in time. So his mineral count is actually going to shoot up, even though he has taken quite a few SCV losses. Now, if the bases start going down, that's where Creator will find his advantage. He himself just sitting on 3 bases for the time being.
Absolutely. He can sit back and pick off SCVs as much as he wants, but as long as the orbital command is still there, mules can be dropped at those mineral patches, and that will be very, very difficult for Creator to stop, as we do have a huge engagement here. Are we going to be... No, both sides actually being very tentative at the moment. Creator only using his Colossi to hit that orbital command, waiting for Polt to get his army into a more favorable position for Creator to engage. Really nice decision coming out of here from our Protoss, but his timing is slowly running out as Polt continuously producing more and more off of his base advantage. Nice force fields there, trapping some of the army. Really needed a third one to completely trap them, though, and not quite able to pull that off. And it looks like the orbital command for now will live. The Marauder's just too much of a threat unless Creator decides, wow, never mind. He's just going to be pushing in with everything he has. He figures he might be able to take the game right here. And those Zealots doing so much damage to those SCVs.
Yes, they are. So the worker count continues to dwindle now for Polt, and he is going to have to sacrifice his third base for the time being. Medevacs were out of healing, so they actually sent directly over the army. Unfortunately, that's kind of a bad byproduct whenever you have Medevacs on the same hotkey. So these Colossi are still allowed to stand up and dish out their damage, starting to rack up the kills. Those 3-3 Colossi, too powerful. Polt GG's Creator has taken game number 1 of this best of 9. I'm sorry, not a best of 5 at all.